we walked for just a little ways, and we have flashlights, right? So we're looking at the trail. One of the guys just arbitrarily, looks up with his flashlight, and he sees eyes.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And so, we know enough to know like how to identify whether it's predator or prey.
Okay.
And 100% predator.
Oh, no. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Josh Weir, and I'm here having a conversation and kind of want to hear the story of Derek and kind of how he got started with life, where you came from, where you went to school, that sort of thing. So let's hear about it, man.
It's really exciting to finally be doing this. We've been talking about it for several months, and now we're here getting started. So, I'm really looking forward, on the podcast, just kind of, engaging in interesting conversation, adding value to whoever decides to listen, and also kind of telling the story of our firm, how we got started, and inviting people from the community.
Perfect, man. Well, I'm excited. I know we've been talking about this for a while now, so I'm excited to finally be doing it. So because we're brand new, we're just starting this thing, I want you to kind of give us a brief sort of intro to yourself. So if you want to just give our listeners just a brief idea and just kind of, who are you? What do you do? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So from the sort of the perspective of the podcast, I'm the managing partner of Gaddis Premier Wealth Advisors. And I've been doing this I haven't been the managing partner for a long time, but I've been in the industry probably 8 or 9 years now. Collectively as a firm, though, we've got like 200 years of experience. So lots of experience that we're hoping to bring to the podcast. And yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So quick thing. Last time you and I spoke, you mentioned you were going on a backpacking trip.
Yes.
Where was that again?
Yeah. So we went on I think it ended up being like 56.5 mile, multi-day, multi-night backpack trip from Wolf Creek. So like Pagosa Springs area.
Which state is this? Sorry.
Colorado.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And then we hiked like north and then east up into the Rio Grande Reservoir, which is just like northwest of Creede, Colorado.
Man, 56 miles.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Dude. Okay. So any cool, crazy stories, anything you want to share with everyone?
Yeah. So we were talking about this before the podcast. The first 2 days were pretty uneventful. Yeah. We had it slated out where we were going to hike like 10 miles, 11 miles, 13 miles, then 16 or 17, kind of give or take. Right. And it's a very, very remote area. So water, I think it was the second day, we'd never crossed water the entire day. Okay. And so you kind of plan out your camping spots for when you're going to cross water so you can rehydrate, refuel, cook your food, all the important stuff. So hiked the first 2 days, nothing really eventful happened. We were above 10,000 feet the entire time. So in between 10,000 and just shy of 13,000 feet.
Yeah. And we're like at 800 in Texas, right?
Yeah, like 600. I think my watch tells us it's like 656 feet.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
just for perspective, because that's really high.
Yeah. So we went a day early. We got acclimated.
Yep.
And then we kind of set it on our trip. So first 2 days, just extremely uneventful. Nothing really noteworthy happened. And then the third day, we're kind of coming up on a ridge, and 12,000 feet, you have pretty good perspective.
Sure.
And so we look off in the distance, and there's a forest fire,
dude.
And so we can see the smoke. It looks like it's going pretty good based on the smoke.
Oh my gosh.
Based on the lack of smoke in the air, like way up high, it looks like it looks like it just started.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't seen it. So crazy enough, one of the guys on the trip had limited service at like 1 bar of LTE, and so he was able to call, patch this through to, I think it was like the Pueblo like emergency office or something. We called 911, and they told us we were probably seeing a fire, and come to find out, we think it was not the fire that they told us we were seeing.
Oh, it was a different one.
Yeah, it was a different one. So, at that point, we kind of had to make a decision. Were we gonna push through, or were we gonna go back? This is like, 26, 27 miles into the trip. So, going back is not that great of an option.
Yeah, I mean that's a long ways. You can't just like step back like a couple of feet to go back, where you started.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
crazy. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So we decided to push through, and based on where we had thought the fire was, where the trail was going, we were gonna walk right in front of this thing, and so we pushed through, and we ended up. So we knew it was gonna get dark, right, before we even finished the hike for the day.
Oh, gosh.
And so we end up, we were around the corner. We kind of know where we're at. We have two more ups and downs. Get the first one done, go down, get ready to ascend the second one, and it's pitch black. Like the moon was in a weird cycle where it was coming up at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. So there's no moon, nothing but stars, and you can see the Milky Way. It was fantastic. Like you can see the Big Dipper, the Milky Way. My gosh. And so we keep hiking, we keep pushing on, and it was probably 9 or 10 o'clock at night. We find ourselves like on top of this ridge. It's called Squall Pass.
Okay.
And so we're on top of this thing. It's not the middle of the night yet. It's pretty darn close. Wind's blowing. We have nothing but like our headlamps and our lights. And you notice like this stuff falling. And it's like, well, what is this?
Oh,
it's like, It's the ash from this fire.
Dude.
And like the only consolation was we couldn't see the glow of the fire. So it's like, okay, maybe we're not that close.
Sure.
So anyway, so we start coming down the mountain. Finally, we start getting off this ridge. I mean, the wind's been blowing the whole time, like 30, 40 miles an hour. It's just miserable.
Was it cold?
Yeah, it was cold. It got down to almost freezing almost every night.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
And so we get off this ridge, and now we're finally getting down off the mountain, kind of getting back into the trees a little bit. We walk for just a little ways, and we have flashlights, right? So we're looking at the trail. One of the guys just arbitrarily, looks up with his flashlight, and he sees eyes.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And so, we know enough to know like how to identify whether it's predator or prey.
Okay.
And 100% predator.
Oh no.
Yeah. So we have determined that we best think it was a mountain lion. Dude. And so I kind of jump off the trail and like just try to startle this thing. So I yell, yeah. And it doesn't blink.
Oh my gosh.
Like it's just stone cold staring us in the face.
And it's dark.
And all we can see are eyes.
Oh my God.
And so we take off, we keep walking, and this thing like gets up and starts walking beside us. It's probably 75 yards away from us. Oh my God. It's walking beside us. And so of course we're on high alert from that point forward. So obviously we take firearms for protection.
Yeah.
Whenever we go, bear spray. So we were on high alert for quite a while. Yeah. Walk down the mountain a little farther, see another set of eyes.
Oh gosh.
So we must have been in like some sort of mountain lion refuge or habitat or something. But anyway, yeah, long story short, we stopped at 12:18 after 24 miles. So we walked 24 miles that day. We had close to a mile of elevation gain. And I don't know how much elevation we lost, but so that made for, we slept, I don't know how many hours I slept that night. It was not a good night's sleep. Yeah. Woke up next morning and there's a mole like trying to come up to the bottom of my tent. Oh. Like, so I'm playing like whack-a-mole. Yeah. We had a situation a couple years ago where we slept on this area where there were a bunch of moles. Okay. And a bunch of the guys had this instance where, these moles were trying to come up out of the ground and they were under their tent. And so it was wild. So up until that point, it was pretty uneventful. Yeah. But that entire day was wild.
Jeez. That's an adventure, man.
It was a lot of fun. But
dude, that's so cool.
That's why we do it. It's to get away, to to reset, to gain perspective on life. And
I'm sure it's really nice to be like just tuned out of like having like your phone in front of you all the time and like just kind of putting technology down and just really getting to enjoy nature. And I would probably say in that case, probably a lot of time with God, I would imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot of time for reflection, especially middle of the night on top of the mountain. Yeah. It's just, it's a very remote environment, right? Nobody, we had one of the gentlemen that went with us, and he had a GPS where he could, kind of send a message out, let everybody know we were okay. But other than that, like, nobody's coming for you.
Yeah, you're just kind of out there.
Yeah, you're kind of out there on your own. So,
man,
this was by far the farthest we've ever hiked.
Okay.
Total, I think it was 56.5 miles. Yeah, when you get done with that, you really feel like you did something.
Yeah, I could imagine, because I think I told you this. I was in Colorado, I think like a few weeks before you went.
Yeah, you went to Woodland Park, which we ended our trip in Woodland Park.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So I didn't really get I didn't get like sick or anything, but you can definitely tell just walking, you get a little winded because the elevation difference is it's just crazy. So I can only imagine 56 miles.
Yeah.
At that elevation.
Yeah. And it takes a little while to acclimate, but once you get acclimated, like you're pretty good. Your body adapts pretty fast.
And that's the cool thing too. Cause I was actually talking to, one of the guys that went with you about it.
Yeah.
And cause I was thinking, I was like, is there any like long-term effect from living up here? And it's like, well, no, your body just adjusts.
Yeah.
Like it just acclimates to it.
Yeah.
And I just think that's such a cool thing that our body can like adapt that way.
Yeah. You get more red blood cells.
Yeah.
So
okay.
you get more red blood cells, which those are the blood cells that carry oxygen to your body. So
that's super cool. Wow.
Heck yeah.
Dang. Okay. Well, I want to kind of transition into talking about really like your story.
Yep.
And kind of going from, I would say, like where you went to school.
Yep.
And even we can even go back even down to like, what did you want to do when you were little? Like what was it you wanted to do when you grew up? That kind of thing. And I want to kind of go through sort of your journey and how you landed where you are now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's hard to go back to, like what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I'm sure standard kid answers, right?
Sure.
Like policeman, firefighter, cool jobs like that.
Yeah.
I doubt 5-year-old Derek ever dreamed of being a financial advisor or doing a podcast. Like when I was 5, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have internet, nothing like that. It'll make you feel old.
Yeah. Yeah. It's changed. Things have changed a lot.
Yeah. When I went to college, so I went to college at OSU.
Okay.
My wife and I met in Stillwater. I grew up in a very small, not a very small town. Small town's relative. Like my wife grew up in a very small town. I think she graduated with under 30, 30, give or take, plus or minus. I graduated, I went to town. I lived in a town of 5,000 people, graduated with just about almost 100 people. And then went to school at Stillwater, OSU, which was about 30 minutes from the town that I grew up in. Probably just really went to school at OSU just because of the proximity to home. Yeah. It was really close to home, pretty convenient, major university. Sure. When I started school at OSU, I was pre-physical therapy major. So I played a lot of sports in high school.
Oh, what was your go-to?
Yeah. So, I started, played baseball first.
Okay.
Then, got into football, and then wrestling was probably my go-to. So I wrestled a lot through high school.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yep. Awesome. Okay.
So I was really into sports.
Yeah,
sure. I still love, and that's even still a passion point of mine today, is just love being physically active, love doing things. Hence the hiking trip. So keeps me busy, keeps me active. Through the course of through that coursework, when you're that age, do you really know what you want to do?
You really don't. Even though you think you do, like truly, and you're going to college, you're paying all this money to go to school for this thing, but you really have no idea.
No,
you just
no
don't
idea.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I transitioned to education. I was going to be a teacher.
Okay.
So I was going to be a math or a science teacher, which I still love. And that's something I really incorporate into what I do today, is sort of that heart of a teacher, really try to educate. One of the things that even here at the office that we try to make, a core focus of our meetings is we want to educate our clients to make decisions that are in their best interest, right? If I can equip them to do things that are in their best interest, like they don't even, they might decide to use our services, but they don't need us. There are a lot of things professionally that we do that sort of add value to that. But anyway, so education, and then, again, I made a third transition, which was my final transition, and I ended up being a finance major.
Okay.
So
now, what was it that got you, what got you there?
Yeah.
What was it that you like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do finance. What was it that kind of crossed that bridge?
Yeah. So, I've always sort of had a propensity towards numbers and spreadsheets, and I've always kind of liked math. Yeah. And I was very fortunate in college. I had some really good mentors. We had Bible studies before we went to work once a week. And that mentor had a friend who was a math teacher at high school. He was a math teacher in high school. And he gave me this book, and I actually brought it just to have reference to it. So it's Money, Possessions, and Eternity.
Okay.
It's by a guy named Randy Alcorn. And, with that book, it really kind of opened my eyes to how much the Bible has to say about money.
Yeah.
Which is quite a lot. Quite a lot.
Yeah, it is.
Not to misquote the book, but I think there's like 2,300 passages in Scripture that reference money, which is more than any other topic, hands down. So what that did is, and that really just kind of gave me insight on how to manage my personal finances, right? There was never I didn't even know people, were paid or compensated or were able to have a career being financial advisors. So, at that point, that just helped me get a handle on my personal finances, aligning them with Scripture, like what does the Bible say about money? And then it wasn't until, several years into my professional career that I decided to make the transition to being a financial advisor.
Very cool. Very cool. So you would say you kind of saw the way that impacted your life personally, and is that kind of what made you want to be able to do that for others? Or
yeah, I mean that's pretty generous, I think.
okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I would like to say that I saw what this did in my life and had this just clouds open, light shines down, word from God, and that's what I did. It was quite a bit messier than that.
It was a process.
It
wasn't like an instant I'm fixed kind of thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, my wife and I, we got married in 2009. I hate like dating that because if I'm wrong, it's recorded for the world to see.
Don't hurt him.
We'll say the year. We won't say the date. And so, we got married. The gentleman that married us, he made us agree, give him our word that we would take Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University.
Okay.
So we got married here in Durant, and then we moved to New Mexico to go to work. And so whenever we got there, we couldn't find any classes that were being facilitated. So sort of a testament to my wife's integrity, she said, Derek, we should facilitate a class. And I said, well, Carol, I think that sounds like a wonderful idea. I'll help you. Wow. I'll be there for you, honey. Yeah. Right? Like if anyone comes and has like a really hard question, I'll be there to answer it.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that we're having this conversation and this is what I do for a living, it's proof that God has a sense of humor. Yeah. Right? So obviously, I don't know if I should say obviously, but I was changed by far more by taking Financial Peace University. We really, our finances, had gotten to a place, and we were newly married, right? We hadn't been married long, so it really helped us to get off on the right track. But our finances were not in a place that were good. Fortunately, we had a big hole. We had big shovels too. Yeah. So we were able to right our situation fairly quickly, which that actually allowed me to quit my job. So, we paid off all of our debt except our house, and we didn't need two incomes. Fortunately for us, we were both very well compensated for what we did at that point in our lives. And so I was able to quit, retire.
Really?
Yeah. When I was that young.
How old?
Well, I'm not like, that's a joke.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I took you literally.
Yeah. It would be wonderful.
I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah. I'm not independently wealthy.
Okay. Hey, I mean,
But I did make a transition.
Okay.
And so, I wish I could say I knew what I was going to do when I quit, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And so we agreed, my wife and I agreed that, I should quit and, decide to sort of pursue something that I was more passionate about. And so I tried several different things, several other entrepreneurial endeavors, and they were not successful. One of them, I remember one gentleman saying, Derek, you think too much. And I was like, well, maybe I should do something that requires me to think. Mm. And, again, digging, doing research. And I told Carol, I said, hey, I think people get paid to be financial advisors. Like maybe I should look into that. Yeah. And, the second I was able to look into it, it's like God just kind of started opening doors and opportunities. And I was able to, successfully transition into this career. So
that's awesome.
It's a good time.
And I think that's a good testament to, I guess even an encouragement to other people that are struggling financially. Yeah. And not just even like on income, but on a basis of like managing it and being, wise with it, really, I guess the cliche to say, like to use it wisely, to steward it. That you can come from a place that you're not great at that and you're not in a good position.
That's right.
And then your story, you are now a financial advisor. Yep. But you weren't always that way. But that's I think that's a cool like progression,
Yeah. And I think, one of the things that we talked about, as we were sort of brainstorming what we were going to talk about, it really kind of spurred the thought in me, with my story or, the path that I took, when I was able to align, my finances with what the Bible has to say, I gained freedom, right? I was able to make a successful transition from a career that I was not passionate about, wasn't a bad career, but a career that I was not passionate about into something that I was really passionate about. And so, for me, freedom has always been a core value.
Yeah. I remember when we were brainstorming in that same meeting, and you had talked about how it's not just a transformation of finances, but it's an all-encompassing like change of life. Yeah. Right. So like it's freedom, not just financially. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, sort of bringing congruency to, the financial aspect and then, other parts of your life, typically what I have found, finances are downstream of other things. Okay. Right. Yeah. So, if someone inherits a large amount of money and let's say they have, let's take a lottery winner, for example. That's probably the easiest. When someone wins the lottery in a very short period of time, they're back to where they started. They burn through the money.
Yeah. I've heard about that.
Yeah. Or the opposite, like let's say someone is very charitably inclined and they come into a lot of money. Well, they become a philanthropist. So a lot of times money is just, money is downstream of any sort of discipline that you have in your life. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Dang. I love that, man.
Yeah. And we see that all the time, in our industry.
Yeah.
Good and the bad.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
So it's about transforming lives, not just finances. And the finances just kind of come with that change of life.
Yeah. And I think it's almost like a chicken and the egg thing, right? If you can develop the discipline to do a budget or to get in shape physically, whatever area of your life you want to develop discipline around, that'll cascade into other areas, right? So if you and your spouse can get together on a budget, well, what else can you get together on?
Yeah, that's good.
Right. And so the budget, even biblically speaking, like this, like finances, like that's like entry level stewardship, right? If you can't handle your finances, then, you're not going to be entrusted with much more. So I do think that there's a strong congruency between managing your finances well, and then that overflowing into other areas of your life.
That's so good. I love that. So obviously, your relationship with God, your faith, has had an effect on your professional life, on your business. Let me ask this: do you think the morals and ethics of being a man of faith is that an advantage or is it a disadvantage in the business world?
Oh man, yeah, I read this question, and it's a tough one. Like, I think whether it's an advantage or a disadvantage is irrelevant.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It kind of is what it is. Ultimately, I think it's an advantage because I do feel that if we align our our morals and our ethics according to Scripture, and I think we can even see this in like the Jewish faith, like they're just blessed because they align their lives with the Scripture. So I do think it is an advantage, but is it easy? No. So I do think there's a level of difficulty, and it's kind of like what's the one of the things that we talk about in investments is time horizon, or what's the time horizon of your investment? Well, in this conversation, it's what's the time horizon for the decision we're making, right? If we make decisions based on a short time horizon, well, that could lead us to make decisions that are counter to our faith, or that are not of integrity. But whenever we move that time horizon out, like I think you will always be in an advantageous position when you maintain your integrity. And there's always, you're always going to have opportunities to make decisions that are in line and of integrity, or that are not. And I think that's not even in business. That's just in our personal lives.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something that's either right or wrong.
Yeah. I love that you went to integrity, because that's where I was going to chime in, was like, I think even the component of integrity, because that's all over in Scripture, that's all over in just our walk with God, is integrity.
Yep.
And I think there's a natural pull when you are a man of integrity and you run a business out of integrity.
Yeah.
I think that just naturally pulls, whether they're believers or not, it's going to pull people in because they know they can trust you. Yeah. There's a trust that's built through integrity. So that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Even if I give someone an answer that they don't want to hear, they know they can trust it. Yeah.
Because you're a man of integrity. Yep. And you're honest. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
I love that. So I know one other thing you told me about when we first met was, referencing back to the fact that you did wrestling in high school.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Let's hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, jiu-jitsu, I think jiu-jitsu has really picked up in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It might be my bias just because I'm kind of in the middle of it, but yeah, jiu-jitsu is probably my main hobby. I love it. It's a martial art. It originated in Japan. And there was there was a Brazilian family named the Gracies. And so I think they were based out of like Rio de Janeiro area. And so they learned from the main Japanese master. And then they had basically brought it to the United States. But it's grappling, very similar to wrestling.
Okay.
The only thing in wrestling, you're trying to pin your opponent. Like the objective is to get your opponent pinned to the mat. In jiu-jitsu, the objective is to choke or strangle or joint lock. It's submission. So jiu-jitsu is submission based. Yeah. Okay. I would love, like, whenever we transition to like me hosting, I'd love to have a guy named Kel. He's the gentleman that started the jiu-jitsu gym here in Durant. And we started in his garage. Okay. I started with another gentleman named David. David's a great dude. He actually still comes to the gym. Started with David. Then a couple of us transitioned to the garage because that was in the morning. So we were able to roll. That's what you call it. We were able to roll in the morning. And then we transitioned to, the real gym, which are actually in their second location now.
Oh, wow.
And really flourishing. Like,
that's so cool.
Yeah. Durant has been very receptive to jiu-jitsu.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you guys hear that, be looking for that podcast, for that episode. What was his name?
Kel.
Be looking for that, because we're gonna do an episode with him. That would be really cool, I think. Okay, let me ask this then. Do you think there's a connection between the physical discipline and training such as jiu-jitsu and running a business? So like, is there a correlation there?
100%. 100%. I think, with anything you do, it's either death by 1,000 cuts or victory by 1,000 cuts. Mm-hmm. Right? I forget the quote. Winston Churchill. I think it was Winston Churchill. Anyway, I don't know if I have to cut that or not, but that's a good. There's a good quote. Yeah, the discipline and doing the small things day in and day out. There was again Dave Ramsey. I was listening to him one time. This is one of my favorite books. So he was, I didn't bring it for the table here, but he was having a meeting with a very successful businessman, right? And he asked this businessman, he said, so what is the one book? Like if you had to recommend one book, what is it? And the guy's like, well, that's easy. And of course, Dave, his mind automatically jumps to, well, it must be the Bible. Like if it's that quick, it must be the Bible. And it was Aesop's Fable, The Tortoise and the Hare.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Dave goes and buys the book. He reads it. I don't get it. Reads it. I don't get it. Reads it. The turtle wins. Every time the turtle wins. And so, same thing as in life, right? Most people in jiu-jitsu, most people don't even make it to blue belt. And that's the first belt promotion you get.
Okay.
Is blue belt. I think like 90% of people don't ever even make it to blue belt because they quit.
Okay.
Right. But if you can stay consistent over a long period of time, you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
Again, I think the same is true in business or any endeavor in life.
Yeah.
Most people, I think when they think of entrepreneurs, it's exciting, maybe sexy, like they see all this excitement.
Sure.
Well, I mean, from my opinion, and most of the entrepreneurs I know, like you have to be able to do the boring day in, day out, and not get distracted.
Yes. And there is exciting, and there is some stuff that's a little sexy. Yeah. But most of it's not.
No.
It's boring, and you just got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I love
and
that.
You know that. I mean, you started your own business.
Absolutely.
Doing this.
Here we
are. So it really is doing the boring day in and day out, time and time again. When I first moved to Durant, I had this vision that if I could help enough people, if people, when they think about money or if they have questions about money, if I could be seen as a resource, then I would be successful. And so I started teaching classes locally, Financial Peace University locally, started teaching classes at some of the other entities here in town. And I mean, for free, just to be seen as a resource where people could call, they could ask, just be a point of contact.
Man, that's super cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that connection. That's awesome, man. Let me ask this. Are there some core values or beliefs that you live your life by?
Yeah. So Carol and I, my wife, we actually did this exercise. Man, it might've been a year ago now, where we identified, we did like we basically just did a brainstorm, started with all the words that we felt like were within the realm of our core values.
Right.
And then we grouped those words, and then we tried to find, one word that defined all of them. So gratitude, freedom, integrity, and harmony. Yeah. And so those are my wife and I's collective core values. Freedom is definitely core, and I say this all joking aside, harmony is my wife's. But there are aspects of harmony that I've come to appreciate. Yeah. So, but freedom, definitely 100%. Integrity and gratitude is something that is very much core to who we are.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's connect it then to the firm.
Sure.
So then what are the core values of the firm?
Yeah. Now you're going to make me remember. I actually printed this. I didn't print this out, but I re-looked at this right before the podcast. In integrity, work ethic, respect, integrity, work ethic, respect. We have 5 core values. There's more partners than there are with my wife and I. I think you should have 3, maybe 4 to core values. Those are the main ones.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool.
Yep.
Awesome, man. What, if any, and surely you have some goals. So what are your goals?
Oh,
I know this is so cliche. I know, yeah. but what are your goals for the next 5, even to 10 years from now on till then? What are your goals?
Yeah. So, I'm going to kind of flip this one around on you. So
okay.
I really did some reflecting on this. Yeah. When you asked what my goals were, I am like high 8, high 1 on the Enneagram. I've got goals. And as a firm, I mean, we've got 10-year, 5-year, 3-year. But I actually don't know if people, I mean, it's really more, it's growth oriented, service oriented. And I read a book a while back, and I love this book. So
this is funny too, because one of my questions you saw.
Yeah, was the books, which neither of these are on there.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I really started thinking about and reflecting, like, 5 and 10 years. So, my kids are, 9, 7, and 5. So in 10 years, I mean, that's 19, 17, and 15. And I'm thinking, man, so my mind really went towards like a family orientation. This by far, I don't know if the camera will pick that up. This is a fantastic book. So The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And, there's also a, it's beautiful. Yeah. So there's also a slide deck that I have. It's called Purposive Drift. It's phenomenal. But really, I do think we should live our lives with purpose.
Yeah.
And we should be headed in that direction.
Yeah.
However, a goal should really only stay the same as long as every single one of the underlying assumptions remains unchanged, which that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So I do think, whenever I was thinking about the goals, this is, and my wife, I actually called my wife and she brought this book from the house. So the premise of this book is you have a boy that is interacting with these animals, with the mole, the fox, and the horse. And he asks the question, he says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he's asking this of the mole.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, excuse me. The mole is asking to the boy, what do you want to be when you grow up? Kind, said the boy.
Wow.
And then the boy asks the mole, what do you think success is? Asked the boy. To love, said the mole. And so, this book is it's all it is. It's just, it's full of just this wonderful story of his interaction with those creatures. And, I really think when I think of my 10-year, 5-year, 3-year goals, I lean more towards that. Like, what kind of, in 10 years, I want to have a good relationship with my children.
Yeah.
Like, I don't necessarily think, like, I am not my children's friend at this point of their life.
Yeah.
I am their father. But I want to be a good father. Yeah. Right. And so, I do think you also asked, what would future you say to you?
Yes, I did.
In this podcast. Yep. And just wonderful prompting questions. And I think for me, it's easy for me, as a guy approaching 40, to be very career minded and driven. And we have, don't let me underplay this. Like, we have been very blessed in our business. We have wonderful partners and a great business, but it would be very easy for me to be consumed by that. And so for me, even as I focus on, my family, those are the things I kind of want to focus on as far as my goals for the future.
Well, it's like, why do it?
That's right.
If it's not, if family isn't the priority, right? If being a good father, being a good provider, that's the whole reason for doing what you do, right? At the end of the day, those are the most important pieces, right?
Yeah.
So,
this is something I'm passionate about that allows me to provide for my family. Yeah. And I recently read a book. So you asked me about like the three top books.
I'll ask it. What are 3 books, or even, it doesn't have to be 3, but what are some books that you would love for our listeners to check out?
So I love to read. I'm an avid reader. Yeah. I'll go kind of in reverse order and end with the one that kind of connects back to this story. So my favorite genre is historical nonfiction. The Endurance, which is the story of Shackleton's adventure to Antarctica. Phenomenal book. So that's one of the best historical nonfictions I've ever read. And then what was the second one? Oh, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Okay. So Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor. And it's just a wonderful book about just about hope, like not losing hope for the future. They were actually, I think he was a clinical psychologist, and he developed a thing called logos therapy. But they were actually able to predict when people were going to pass away because they would lose hope they would lose hope for tomorrow.
Wow.
Fantastic book.
Yeah.
And the third one, which is a recent read, those other two books are pretty safe. I would say the third one is not as safe. I don't agree with everything in the book, which I'm a huge proponent of reading things you don't agree with.
Okay. I like that.
But it was The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by a gentleman named John Mark Comer.
Okay.
And it really, I think that really frames a lot of the things that I'm thinking about and going through right now, because, our culture and our society is just moving at breakneck speed.
Yeah.
And I really think we need to slow down.
Yeah. I agree with that for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. What do you want people to walk away with from this podcast, from this conversation we just had? What's one thing? Yeah.
This was hard too. Coming up with one thing. So
yeah, for sure.
I think I drilled it down into one word, which was intrigue. I really want people to be intrigued by the things that we talk about, potentially the resources that we present, who we are as people, even as we bring other people onto the podcast, what we do as a firm. I really think that, people's curiosity need to be piqued for them to, move forward into anything that's transforming. Yeah. So there has to be, I thought about this on the trip. Most people, most adult development happens around fear or trauma, like something bad happens. But I think even from our faith perspective, like it really has to happen around faith and hope. Yeah. Like there has to be hope for something better to move forwards towards, as opposed to, fear of something in the past. Yeah. Trauma, I believe, gives us perspective, right? We don't really know, we don't appreciate, this gets back to the core value of gratitude. Yeah. We don't really appreciate being healthy unless we've really been sick. Yeah. Right. So it's these things exist in a dichotomy. Yeah. So I guess that would be my one takeaway is I hope everyone's curiosity is piqued. Yeah. That they have a healthy level of intrigue and hope to continue to tune in. Yeah, absolutely. Love it, man. Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah. Again, I'm so excited about this, man. This is just going to be, I really thoroughly enjoyed this. Yeah, no, I'm excited too. This is awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I can't wait to share others. Yes. And I can't wait to do more episodes. I mean, we've got I think we have like 15 or so episodes. Yeah, planned. We had a lot when we brainstormed. Yeah. So, coming in the future, we plan on having all the partners on from Gaddis Primber Wealth Advisors, sort of telling their story, and then how that culminates as a firm into what we do, and then bringing in other centers of influence from our communities, really trying to highlight their businesses and even their path to where they got to be. Yeah, love it. Thanks again, guys. Stay tuned for more. We're going to make this available wherever you listen to podcasts. It'll also be video. Obviously, we're recording all this, so there'll be video podcasts available as well. So, all right. Thanks again, guys. Yeah, thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. Thanks, man.